If we're being real, there are about 4 teams in the NBA that can actually win the finals this year. And even though there is a very easy and very simple answer you could go with, I don't think that's going to happen again. I honestly believe this is going to be one of the most unpredictable NBA seasons of all time. We got Victor Wembanyama in his second year. We got the questions about Bronny James. Are there going to be teams like the Houston Rockets and the Hornets that weren't that good last year, but they could surprise a lot of people? Are the Phoenix Suns finally going to be good? And in due time, I will answer all of those questions. I think it's time we predict who's going to win the NBA Finals. I think the most cop-out and most simple answer you're going to get is the Boston Celtics. Last year, I didn't predict the Celtics to do well. I thought they were frauds. Turns out they were the best team in the league. They had the best record and they won the finals with ease. But I do think in year 2 of this Celtics super team that things are going to be a little bit different. I think that Jason Tatum is going to play a lot better, more than he's ever played before. A lot of people had a lot of things to say about Jason Tatum, especially because he didn't win finals MVP. That went to Jaylen Brown. And when you watch the games, there were certain points where it looked like Jaylen Brown was the 1A player on this team. Now, if you were to ask Jason Tatum if it bothered him that people thought he wasn't the 1A player on this team and they thought less of him, he'd probably tell you no. But if I'm being real, I think this lit a fire under Jason Tatum. Even after he won the NBA Finals, something he's never been able to do, everyone still criticized him. They said he didn't contribute much, which is obviously a lie. They said that he got this ring because of other players on this team and that he didn't matter. Again, that's a lie. Tatum is a good player, but one thing he does is he benefits from playing with a lot of other great players. And I do think it's kind of unfair that we put that on Tatum like that's a bad thing. I honestly think it's ridiculous that we criticize Tatum for playing with good players, and of course his stats are going to go down. Now, Jaylen Brown playing like the best player, was that something I predicted? No. I always thought Jaylen Brown was the 1B to Tatum's 1A. And if you were to listen to the NBA world, you would have thought that Jaylen Brown absolutely carried the Celtics to a finals win. But if we look at the stats, they weren't that much different. In fact, if we're being technical, Jason Tatum technically played better. He had more points per game, more rebounds, and more assists per game. Now, Brown did barely shoot better, and he did have a better defensive performance. I'll give him that. But I feel like a lot of people make it seem like Tatum was just absolutely carried and he provided no value whatsoever. I mean, even in the WNBA, the New York Liberty, they just won the WNBA Finals. And people were saying, oh, Sabrina Ionescu, who I'd say is the best player on that team. And if you don't watch the WNBA, she's the equivalent to Steph Curry. But a lot of people were saying, oh, because Ionescu played bad, that she got carried. And she's just like Tatum, which again is a narrative I absolutely hate. But the whole reason I even bring this up is because I think Tatum is going to play a lot better this year. I think he's going to show that he has a lot to prove. And I do think it's Tatum having his best season that he's ever had is why the Celtics could win the finals once again and repeat. However, I don't know if it's going to be that easy because we've had 6 different champions over the past 6 years, and it is very hard to repeat in today's NBA. And it's why I have a team like the Oklahoma City Thunder possibly dethroning the Celtics. The Oklahoma City Thunder have had one of the best rebuilds I've seen in quite some time. They went from a lottery team to the following year a play-in team to the following year the first seed in the Western Conference. And with them quietly having a pretty good offseason, there's no telling what this team is going to do. If you didn't think the Thunder were already good, them getting Isaiah Hartenstein and Alex Caruso was perfect. And it felt like they lost nobody in return for those guys. I mean, all they gave up was Josh Giddey for Alex Caruso. And if we're talking strictly on the court, he's been a net negative for the past couple seasons. With Shai Gilgeous-Alexander having a damn near MVP season last year, with Jalen Williams breaking out, with Chet Holmgren having one hell of a rookie season, again with the additions I talked about earlier, I feel like OKC is on a trajectory we haven't seen. And I do think that they're going to be the team to actually come out of the West this year. We all knew that OKC was going to be a great offensive team. I mean, they have a lot of scorers on their team, but last season they were 4th in the NBA in defensive rating. So what the hell do you think is going to happen with the additions of Isaiah Hartenstein and Alex Caruso? Hell, this team might easily be the best defense in all of basketball. Hell, in all of the rankings, OKC was basically the 2nd best team in the league. And I do think due to the lack of experience, it's why they weren't able to make the finals last year. In fact, I think this team is so good, they're the only team in the West I'm putting on this list. If I were to give you 4 teams to make the finals, I think the Thunder are the only one to come out the West. It's just the way I see it. I like teams like the Timberwolves Timberwolves, but I just think OKC is better. And low-key, I do think the Cat trade did downgrade the Timberwolves just a little bit. Oh, and speaking about Karl Anthony Towns, let's talk about the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks reunited the Villanova boys, which was one of the most beautiful moments of the entire offseason. That was until Donte DiVincenzo was traded in the Cat trade that I just talked about earlier. And now this has started some NBA soap opera that involves Donte DiVincenzo and Jalen Brunson's dad, or Tom Thibodeau. I really don't know at this point. But what I do know is the Knicks getting Mikal Bridges was perfect. The Knicks getting Karl Anthony Towns was perfect. I mean, hell, they filled all the voids that they had. Now, I am a little bit upset they got rid of Donte DiVincenzo, not just because of the whole Nova Boys thing, but I do think he was a great player. Now, if we look at last year and what the Knicks did, I think this is going to be by far a better season. It was because of injuries last year they were eliminated from the playoffs. There were also certain holes in the team that they just could not fix come playoff time. But again, in the offseason, they were able to fix those exact holes. One of the biggest problems for the Knicks last year was the center position, but they got Karl Anthony Towns and Isaiah Hartenstein now. Their defense was good. It was top 10 in the NBA, but you can always improve on defense. Re-signing OG Anunoby, that was big. Mikal Bridges, and this might be a hot take, but I think he's going to return to his Phoenix Suns defensive form, because on the Nets, he had to be one of the better scorers on the team or else they were going to be bad. But on New York, he doesn't have to average 25 points per game. He can only average like 15 or less, but as long as he's good on defense, they're going to be fine because they have a bunch of scorers already on the team. I know Jalen Brunson's going to lead the team in scoring. Karl Anthony Towns is going to go crazy. Hell, even guys like OG Anunoby are probably going to do their thing. But I expect Mikal Bridges to take a dip in scoring because he's going to be better at defense. And overall, I think the chemistry of this team is the best it's ever been. Also, I can't talk about the Knicks and not talk about the greatest New York Knick of all time, Josh Hart. Josh Hart is the perfect X factor on this team, and I think he represents what the New York Knicks really are. What he represents is that with the power of friendship and Mike and Ike's, anything is possible. Okay, what he actually represents is if you're someone who's willing to put his body on the line, someone who's willing to give it his all on the court, you're going to be great. And the Knicks, I think they're the exact embodiment of that statement. Now, before we get to the final team, I want to talk about the honorable mention. The Phoenix, bro, what the, shit, bro, okay, I'm joking, damn, bro, damn. I swear, y'all are not going to let me get my Phoenix Suns takes off this year, huh? Is that how it's going to be? Fine. The actual team I want to talk about is the Milwaukee Bucks. I think Giannis and Dame are in for one hell of a year. I think Giannis has a lot to prove, and I believe that Dame also has something he needs to prove. This team was complete horseshit last year, and I think they know they have a lot to make up for. Because if they don't do well, I think Giannis is going to reverse ask for a trade. And what do I mean by that? Well, recently he said in an interview that you never know, he could be the next to get traded, which some people are saying as maybe he's trying to ask out without actually asking out, which I don't even know if I really believe that, but here's what I do know. Giannis is looking for one hell of a bounce back year. Dame needs to actually prove to people that he's not completely old and washed up, which I think is the furthest from the truth. I think in the beginning of the year, he definitely struggled, but as time went on, he found his footing. And now we're in the second season of this experiment. They're gonna need their guys, Gary Trent Jr., DeLon Wright, and Taurean Prince. The guys they got in the offseason, they need them to step up, which I think they're gonna be able to do because these guys filled the holes that Milwaukee already had. I do also expect Milwaukee to make some kind of move during mid-season before the trade deadline, because if they're not doing well and the Bucks do bad in the playoffs, then Giannis might be leaving. And it is with the extra motivation they have, which is why I'm even putting them on this list. Now, out of all the teams, who do I think is going to win? My prediction is the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to beat the Boston Celtics in 6 games. I think it's going to surprise a lot of people, but I think OKC is going to start their run as one of the best teams in basketball. In the comment section below, I want you guys to tell me who you think is going to be winning the 2025 NBA Finals. I know this upload might seem like a shock to a lot of people, but estoy jodiendo de vuelta para siempre esta vez. In English, I'm fucking back. For good this time.